the escape from Taliban's Kabul, how India accomplished the mission to bring back 140 Indians, including Indian envoy to Afghanistan and all the embassy staff. It was a fraught but precise operation. There has been hugs, cheers and garlands back home. But what was it getting out of Kabul? Here's the inside story of how the Indian embassy staff made it to the Kabul airport.
Well, the Indian Air Force was able to evacuate approximately 140 members of the Indian Embassy, their security personnel and stranded journalists from Kabul this morning. Now, there were cheers and claps as the C-17 transport took off. It was a complicated process. Now, NDTV has learned that Taliban soldiers actually escorted the Indian contingent from the embassy to the airport and then onto this aircraft. In a tweet, the Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar said, movement of the Indian ambassador and the embassy staff from Kabul to India was a difficult and complicated exercise. Thank all those who cooperated and made and facilitated to make this possible. Back home in India, there was an overwhelming sense of relief. The jet landed first in Jamnagar, as you can see. Ambassador Rudrendra Tandon thanking the Indian Air Force. But getting out of Kabul was a nightmare. It all began a couple of days back. 2 Indian Air Force C-17 transports flew on that day for the evacuation mission to Kabul International Airport that you see. The security situation overnight between the 15th of August and the 16th of August deteriorated sharply. No evacuations were then possible. The Indian embassy was under observation by the Taliban. The high security green zone, which houses lots of embassies, had been breached. Overnight between the 15th and the 16th, Taliban soldiers raided what you see here, the SHAHIR visa agency, which processes visas for Afghans looking to travel to India. Now, the first batch of 45 Indian personnel who did evacuate yesterday. They were initially stopped by Taliban sentries en route to the airport. Personal belongings of a few Indian staff members were taken away by the Taliban thugs as they proceeded to the airport. The first Indian Air Force C-17 transport, which departed yesterday, took off in these very challenging circumstances. You can look at people on the ground at Kabul airport, but the remaining members of the Indian staff and contingent were unable, since the route, as you can see over there, was completely closed. These satellite images indicate that mobs were present. There were many cars. There was an overnight conversation between the US Secretary of State and the Indian Foreign Minister, Mr. Jaishankar. That is likely to have helped movement of the remaining Indian personnel to the airport today, but they were accompanied by the Taliban.